Got it. Thank you so
Okay.
much, everyone. Thanks, Carlos. I'm happy to have you here. My name is Amanda Wyndlow, for those of you who don't know me, and I am the Education Chair at Keller Williams Energy. And we're really excited to bring this course content to you guys today about managing objections. This is something that we chatted about at our stakeholders meeting in November at Energy. And it's a topic that we're really passionate about and that we really wanted to continue the conversation on. And we hope to continue to have this conversation, every few months. So I want to thank my colleagues for joining me here today. We've got Mike Clarke, and we've got Mr. Chris Davies, and we've got Nick Moretti. So thank you, Mike, Nick, and Chris, for being here with me today. This is a really open forum discussion. I'm not here to kind of ask a lot of questions. I'm more just here to make sure that we stay on point and manage time well. So Chris, I know this is something that you have a special passion for, so I'd like to kick it off with maybe if you want to give a go about what you'd like to talk about. Just one thing before you do, because we have more than one market center in attendance on this, we are not going to speak about specific percentages with regards to anything to do with commission, as that would be a violation of law, in that it would look like we were trying to price, what is it called? Price
fix.
Thank you. Sorry, not feeling 100% here today, guys. We don't want to look like we're trying to price fix in any way, but we're going to talk about maybe our standards in that regards when we're referring to commission. So on that note, Chris, I'll kick it over to you.
Thanks, Amanda. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Good to see you, Mike. Looking at your tan there, man. Looks pretty good.
Just got back from Mexico, Chris.
Awesome.
Hola.
Yep. Hola. So the reason I'm passionate about this, Amanda, is because as broker of record, I sign trades every day, and I have for years and years. So I see what's happening with commission levels, and I see what's happening with the struggles and the challenge with commission levels, at least in our marketplace. And I can only assume, I know we've got
Thank you so much.
I know we've got
Thanks
some
for the
folks
call.
here from.
Bye.
Hey, Chris, can you mute yourself? Oh, somebody's got to mute
I
themselves.
think that's Dan Campanella is always doing a business call where we're doing a Zoom.
Okay.
Well, I'm just going to throw out a Zoom rule real quick. If you're not talking right now, please put yourself on mute. And if you have something you'd like to ask, please, this is an open forum. Put your hand up. You can hit the raise your hand button there under reactions. And Carlos is also going to keep an eye out, or write it in the chat, and we're going to moderate that. Okay. Sorry, Chris, to cut you off.
No, it's okay, Amanda. So I'm guessing we have some folks from Experience as well as Advantage and Energy here, and I can only assume, and I know through conversations, that the same challenge is everywhere, although it may be more focused in some markets. But I have seen a very significant uptick in the last 7 or 8 months in reduced commissions, especially on the sell side, where we are the cooperating broker and receiving a lesser commission than what we believe we're worth on the sell side. I'm also, however, seeing it significantly more than I've ever seen it on our own list side commissions. And so I'm not unaware of the challenges and the intense competition out there. But the short comment I'll make here is that commission cutting is nothing new. There's a number of us on this call that have been in this business for a long time. I've been in it for 46 years. And the day I started, and it was in Oshawa, there were companies advertising, brokerages advertising reduced commissions then, and it's been that way all along. It is not new. It probably is more intense right now because of the wacko market that we're in, the crazy imbalanced market, and the focus on getting listings. But the reason I'm passionate about this, Amanda, is because I simply know that if we allow our commission levels to be reduced, and I get that there's an argument that prices have increased so much, so we shouldn't be charging the same percentage of commission. I don't buy that argument for 1 minute. I mean, I know the prices have gone up, but also our cost of doing business has gone up, and it will eventually be the case once again where prices aren't going up crazily all the time, but our cost of doing business and our cost of living are going up. So I don't buy that argument. But I understand that it's a valid argument. I understand it's a valid objection that's being dealt with out in the community. So my goal, my desire is to help all of us understand how to deal with that challenge, because there are many, many examples, and I'm sure we have some on the call today. I know we have people on the call today who are highly successful at consistently winning in listing presentations and getting full commissions. And it's not because they don't have the same objections expressed to them, it's because they learned how to deal with them. So that's what I hope we can get at today. Thanks, Amanda.
Absolutely. I think that's great, Chris. And I think that what we're saying here is not that there's not ever a valid position where we may reduce our commission as listing agents, especially, or maybe even on the purchase side, depending on who we're representing. I personally, with friends and family, or I have one client who gave me 6 deals last year, all of which were over 900K. I'm going to give him a little bit of a break when he wants to buy an investment property with me, right? So we have those situations that I think maybe it can be made sense of, and that it just from a business practice actually could be good practice to do that. But as a whole, if you're coming up against, like Chris said, it's a really aggressive seller's market right now. Sellers are thinking, I don't need an agent to sell my house. I can throw it on Facebook and I'm going to sell it on Marketplace. So knowing your value and understanding how to overcome those objections and really script around that, I think is critical to all of us keeping our bar really high as realtors. Nick, do you have anything you'd like to weigh in on this?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, I've been full-time 7 years now. When I was first starting, I was solo for a little bit, and then I joined my mentor and friend Lewis's Bradica's team, and that was a great experience. But I think at the end of the day, it's just about practice. You look at martial artists, right? I know this is totally different industry, but you look at how many times they practice their self-defense, right? And I mean, that's how you have to do that in order to be successful, because right now, if anyone was, we had a call yesterday and McDougall was just speaking, pretty briefly, but he was just saying that at the end of the day, there's less sales, but prices are going up, but there's still sales happening. So it's just a little bit more, we just have to push it a little bit more to get in front of those people. But before all that, you need to know your scripts and you need to know the systems of how it works, right? Because, people won't trust you, right? If people know if they're lying to you at the end of the day, people no, they're doing their research, they're doing all their other stuff. But if it's objection handling, there is a solution. And, I list a lot. I think I did about 11 or 12 listings this year. And, same objections. It's just how I find it is that every deal is just structured a little bit different, but it's the same questions and same answers.
So what we talked about on that call also with Mike was about building your confidence and, as a team leader or within yourself as your own business, how do we build that confidence? Well, I know that when I'm sitting down and I want to build confidence in my seller clients or my buyer clients, I talk about how my job is to educate them. And that's the same thing for us as ourselves. The more we know our stats, the more we're studying our market, the more we know our true value, the more confidence we're going to have. And the more likely those sellers and those buyers are going to be receptive to understanding that we are worth the value that we're requesting here.
Mike, you do a lot of listing business, Mike. I'm sure
Awesome.
you come up with this objection constantly. How do you handle it?
What's the objection? Commission?
Commission. Yeah, commission rate.
Yeah, I mean, I've been training for, I used to be a buyer agent, so never had to do much training for objections on that, although I hear that's an objection now, which shocks me. The best method I've come up with is what I call my value proposition. And what I had to get was that our clients they've either grown up in a discount world. They've talked to their neighbors are coaching them on, their lawyers suggesting they get a discount. So it's funny. My shift was I used to be insulted, or I used to take it personally. And the key was not to take it personally and not to be defensive. So, what I lead with is, because really what they're saying is, I don't see any value in you, Mike. What's your, why am I going to pay you $50,000 for a week's work? Well, and you know, I always say, like, that's a great question. I think everybody wants to save money. But what I tend most of my clients like is they really kind of focus on how much they're going to net. You know, so would you prefer a save in as a discount, or would you prefer to put more money in your pocket? What would you prefer, Chris?
Yeah, definitely more net dollars, Mike.
Right. And you know what? And I don't want you to take my word for that I do that, because you know, I am where I earn my money is what my unique ability is, Chris, is I'm a negotiator. That's something I do really good. I've taken courses, I read books. There's, you know, like I would challenge anybody to negotiate any better than I do. So, but rather than you believe that, what I like to do is back that up a little bit. Chris, you have a moment? I'll show you a couple of examples of that.
Yep.
Okay, so Carlos, this is where I share my screen. So
Go ahead.
So I just
You're
hit
good
share
to go.
screen.
Yep, share screen and start sharing.
Okay, and then hit share, I guess, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, so what am I? Oh, that's not what you want to see, right?
Oh, yep, and then you
Just
want to open
minimize
that. Oh, click
Okay,
that slide.
Can you see
Yes,
this?
we can see it now.
Okay, so can we see that?
Yep.
So let's take a look at an example. So Chris, you have a 2-bedroom semi here in the neighborhood, right?
Yep.
All right, so what I've done, Chris, is here's all the 2-bedroom semis that have sold in your neighborhood. Of course, you're here in East York and Crescent Town, right? As you can see here, and you can see that the average price this year in 2021 for a 2-bedroom semi was $897. Do you see that, Chris?
Yes, I see that. Yeah.
Okay, great. So so let's take a look at what I'm selling 2-bedroom semis for. So we move to the next one. All right, so this is my average for 2-bedroom semis in your neighborhood, Chris. All right.
Okay.
So my average is 943,000. You can see back here in the previous slide, it was 897. So in fact, Chris, I'm netting my clients an extra $46,000 in their pocket on average. So Chris, what I'm saying is here is what you're really doing is you are paying for my negotiation expertise. And really, if you look at that 46,000, basically I'm gonna end up negotiating, paying for the commission that you'll never pay for.
So let me just get this straight, Mike. What you're telling me then is that it's false economy for me to think that if I go out and find a discount salesperson or salesperson who will discount their commission, it's false economy for me to think that that's going to put more money in my pocket at the end of the day after I paid all my bills. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because Chris, I know all the agents that are selling homes in your neighborhood, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I've got all the statistics. So I know it. First of all, I know a discount agent most likely is not going to be able to show you any of this. As a matter of fact, they are going to lead with their commission. Their whole marketing program is a commission discount. So what I'm saying to you is, it's like anything else. So Chris, have you ever had a job where your boss has said, things are a little tough right now, I'm going to have to cut your salary by 5%?
Actually, Mike, I could never hold a job for very long, but yeah.
Yeah. So let's just pretend your present employers, because things are rough, that they've dropped your salary by 5 or 10%. How do you feel about putting your best effort in for your workplace after you've just had a salary cut?
I think I'd be a little ticked off.
Yeah, a little resentful, right, Chris?
Yep.
So you can relate to that, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that you could probably get, I would say, probably a few hundred agents in here to discount their commissions. Now, Chris, you're going to that just per se, you need some surgery. You've got some serious issues. Now, what type of doctor are you going to? A local doctor in your neighborhood, or are you going for probably a doctor or a specialist that's done this over maybe 2,000 times, but they're going to cost you a lot more? Which one are you picking, Chris?
Yeah, I look for the discount. I look for the discount one, Mike. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't. No, if
Yeah.
I'm going to have laser eye surgery done, I don't make that decision based on who's the cheapest. That's for sure.
Yeah. So what I'm telling you, Chris, is first of all, you don't want to demotivate me to get you top price, right? You know, you want
Right.
me out there fighting for every dollar, right? And Chris, what I'm going to show you is at the table, like you're going to see me live negotiate with these different sellers or buyers. So, and also I'm going to give you a list of, here's the last 4 sales I did. I would love it if you could either email or call these people personally and actually ask them if I earned every cent of my commission and then some. Is that fair?
Yep, absolutely.
All right. And Chris, so Chris, at this point, do you see where you're actually going to net more money in your pocket by paying the 2.5% that I'm asking for?
Yeah, you know, it seemed to me like a lot of money, like X percent might seem to me like a lot of money, but I get it now. I need to focus on what I have left in my pocket after I pay your bill.
Yeah.
And I
And
get
Chris,
it. I get it.
Do you know what the last 2-bedroom semi sold for in your neighborhood?
I don't actually know.
Well, let's take a look. So as a matter of fact, you know, I happened to sell just a few days ago, the last semi in this neighborhood. And you can see, Chris, we priced it aggressively and we got it for $296,000 over the asking. So that's $1,025,000. So Chris, on that sale alone, I was over $125,000 over the average.
So Mike, let me ask you a question, not as your client here, but let me just ask you a question in this environment. So, because we on this call, we also have, you know, quite a number of newer agents who don't have that track record that you've amassed, Mike, that you deserve, and you've amassed it, and you can use that to back up. What about someone who doesn't have those their own personal stats like yours available to them? What recommendation would you give to them in terms of how to address that concern with a seller?
Well, you know, Chris, that's a great question. And thanks for asking that, because most of the agents on here don't have these kind of statistics, do they?
Correct.
So I remember when I first learned how to sell real estate, and I bumped into a guy by the name of Mike Ferry. And part of my training was that, you know, the way Mike handled that, he says, you're a brand new agent. So he suggested that I use Keller Williams statistics and just say, this is what we are doing. This is so any agent with Keller Williams, I don't care where you are, we know you've got full permission to use these statistics. Amanda, you got a question?
I was just going to add on to that. So when I started at KW almost 8 years ago, that's exactly the approach that I took. And I was able to say, not only are you getting my experience and my knowledge, and I'm constantly learning right now and constantly enrolled in education courses, you're also getting the benefit of an entire brokerage behind you, because I have so many mentors and so many colleagues, and we work collaboratively as a family here at KW, which is what is unique about working with me as opposed to that solo agent over at that balloon brokerage. So that was a way that I was able to secure confidence and build up confidence when I didn't have these numbers and these stats behind me. And I would use the same script as you, Mike, but I would flip it and I would just say, you know what's funny? This is your financial health that we're talking about. Your home is very likely the largest investment that financially that you will ever make. Would it not make sense to get a second opinion on that, just as you would your health? You're not just getting the opinion of me, but you're getting the brokerage behind me. I've worked with some of my mentors to make sure that what I've prepared for you today is an accurate synopsis of your home. It's been double, triple checked. So you're here with Keller Williams telling you, this is what your home is likely going to sell for. I had a situation in January with a referral, great referral, and they wanted to go with me, but they wanted the local girl in first. So the local agent went in and she offered them a higher list price, but she didn't offer them a higher end result. We had similar end results, but she wanted to list higher than me. And I had to go in and basically explain to them, list price is just a marketing strategy. And you guys might be coming up against that right now because this market is so aggressive and the average seller is interviewing more than one agent. remember that your strategy, what you stick to, you need to make sure they're comfortable with, but you need to be able to explain why it's the better strategy. And I was able to explain to them why listing at my price was a more effective strategy. And I actually blew their expectations out of the water when we sold it. So make sure that you do your research and get people in your brokerage to double check it and work with you on it. You know, that's what we're here for. And you do have a team and a family behind you.
Yeah, and Amanda, what I mostly hear when you're talking is confidence.
Yeah.
Right? You know your stuff. So where we all fall down is myself included, is who I'm bringing into the meeting with them. Who am I bringing in with them? Right? So so for me, knowing my statistics. So like on that, typically, like I would cover an objection like, oh, the other agent's going to list it for a higher price. So I would have examples of different sales in the neighborhood like this, where they started with higher prices and took less. So I'll show them statistically where you're going to get the best results. So that, and what I really hear though is that confidence that is what I'm hearing type of thing, right?
Mhm.
And where did I go to this? So right in the middle here, you see brokerage profit share. So I tell my clients that because we're a profit share, and I actually explain profit share to them, I said, we're the only company out now where we share in all the profits of our company. So Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you've got 130 committed agents to get your home sold. There's a vested interest for the success of your sale. I can guarantee any other agent you're going to be interviewing, unless it's a Keller Williams agent, that they're not going to be able to offer this. It's going to be them. Their brokerage is not going to surround your listing and try to get it sold.
Yeah.
I hope everyone's really listening to what Mike and Amanda and Nick have said. And it really, when you really boil it down, what they're saying is get prepared, get organized about what your message is going to be and how you're going to present it. You take the lead in the conversation, including taking the lead on the commission rate. You know, I've always felt that offense is the best defense. You bring up that topic before they bring it up, and we're on our back foot. But you do that by being prepared, by confidence, and Nick said it, by practicing.
Yes.
Obviously, Mike doesn't have to practice this anymore because this rolls off his tongue because he's got it nailed. He's done it so many times. But I'm guessing, Mike, there was a point in your career where you did practice these conversations a lot before you went out and did them for, under live fire. I'm sure. Is that correct? Did you?
Yeah, no, it's absolutely correct. Do you know how many times I've changed my presentation, Chris? Almost yearly. Drives my marketing people insane. Chris, it's why I attend things like this is I need to stay, and what I'm always looking for is how do I invest in myself so I come across with confidence, possibly some humility, a tough one for me. But to me, I want to go in there like, I tell my wife quite often, geez, honey, I got three listing presentations today. You're my cheerleader. You got to send me out to the front lines. You got to tell me I'm the best. I mean, whatever it takes, because it's whoever I take in there. And I've gone in, Chris, to many presentations. I'm flat. I'm not prepared, right? And it costs me, Chris. It costs me. So it's like, if you're going to a listing presentation, take some time to prepare for it. Because the more you know your statistics, the more you know your stuff, the more confident you are. And it comes across. Because I really think people pick up on who you are being. It's who you're being that makes the biggest difference.
And it's funny, Chris, because I'll be honest with you. I'll get to the end of my presentation before I even bring up commission, and I'll ask them, have I answered all of their questions? And usually they'll say yes. And I'll say, do you have anything else that would stop us from working together at this point? And they'll say no. And I'll say, well, don't you want to know what I charge? Because they haven't even asked me. A lot of the time they haven't. Yeah. So, and stick to your guns. I had one a couple of years ago, and I tell this story because I think it's important. And this, I might exude confidence, but I will tell you, I was shaking in my britches because I went to a listing appointment. I was very prepared. It was a cold call that I had followed up with for 2 years. Okay. So no referral, didn't know them from anywhere. And I went in, I did my presentation, it went really well. And then, but they had a really strong commission objection. And to the point where they wanted to know like how much my stager costs, how much my marketing costs, like they wanted a spreadsheet of my expenses. And I said, listen, I'm going to tell you that, you know, it varies, whatever. I answered most of their questions, but I said, I'm going to encourage you guys to do something right now. I want you guys to go out and interview the discount agent down the street who's charging a few percent less than what I'm charging. I want you to go interview them. And after you interview them, I want to know if you feel like they're going to be able to sell your home for as much money as I'm going to be able to sell your home for after the conversation we've had today. And I'm going to follow up with you in a few days and we're going to see how that conversation went. And I called them 3 days later and they said, we didn't even bother having him in. You're taking it and you're getting your full commission pot. And I got it. But I was like, at the time it was an $800,000 purchase. And I was like, oh God, I don't want to lose that purchase. You know, I was really nervous, but I felt like it was important for me in that moment to stick to my guns on this and say, well, go comparison shop me and see. And I got it.
I have a
If
great
anybody
example
hasn't
of-
looked at,
Sorry.
if anybody hasn't looked at the chat group, have a quick look at the chat group. Billy Concord just made a great comment on the chat group. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Nick.
Go ahead, Nick.
Go ahead, Nick.
Oh, sorry, my apologies. I was just saying, yeah, I can totally relate because, you know, especially nowadays with this crazy market, everyone, you know, wants cheap, but they want the best results, right? Which doesn't make sense, right? But one of our recent listings that we had in North Oshawa, it was actually a really good learning curve because I have a team now. So Kayla was with me on that because it was hers, and it was really good because when we were there, they loved us. You know, everything went great. And then it came down to commission, right? Like I'm just like Chris, I actually lead, you know, I go through everything and I'm offensive, right? When it comes to that kind of stuff, because I think that, you know, they'll understand, look, I have nothing to hide. This is the whole process from A to Z. This is what it is, you know? So they loved us. And then we did a follow-up call because they're like, you know, we're not going to sign anything today, but, you know, we'll be in touch and, you know, we'll go from there. So then following up, what happened was they're like, yeah, you know what? My dad has a friend who used to be a real estate agent. And at the end of the day, like, you know, he's going to list it percent, right? And I go, hey, you know what? I totally understand. But after getting to know you guys, that is not the best vehicle for you because and it's just like what Billy Conker said, like, how can this person already drop their pants and they haven't even negotiated for you? So when it comes time to negotiation and to squeeze people, how are they going to net you more money when they can't even negotiate how much they're worth, right? You know, and they took that into consideration. They're like, well, can you come down like 1% or 0.5%? And I just said, no, like I can't, unfortunately, just because, you know, we have systems that come in place and they do cost and we know what we're worth and we are the best vehicle for you. You know what I mean? So, you know, the next call after that, you know, we're like, okay, let me meet you in person and we'll discuss on, you know, any little things. When we went there, they're like, yep, no, we're all good. And like, sometimes you just got to stick to your guns. Like, that's all it is. It's not like a detriment if someone says no to you, right? Like, just when you go to the store and you want to get a discount and the cashier or whoever you're dealing with says, no, I can't do that. You're still going to buy it anyways, but like, you're trying, right? Because everyone wants to try. Like, that's just what it is. And there's nothing wrong with that. But as long as you're confident and you know your scripts inside and out, I think that you're good. And we ended up getting the highest sale on the street on that listing. So they were more than happy.
So Mike, you had touched on this earlier. Thank you, Nick, for that, because it's just bringing me back to it, something I wanted to touch that Mike had mentioned, which was sometimes don't take it personally. Some people really feel like in order to have done their due diligence that they have to try to negotiate something. There are a lot of people, like I was saying this on our stakeholders call, my 85-year-old Scottish grandmother is gonna ask for a discount every single time. Like, it's a generational thing, it's a cultural thing, it's just a who she is and her soul thing, right? So some people just need that to feel like they really did the best they could to try and, you know, represent themselves in their best interests. And it's nothing to do with you personally. So take the personal part out of it for sure.
Totally.
Amanda, think about it.
Sorry.
Think about it. You know, there's a significant number of people in our own industry that are encouraging the public to ask the question about commissions. Mike's right. We should not be offended. We should not be surprised. We should not be put off by that question. It's a fair question for the public to be asking. It's a very fair. In fact, I'm damn surprised when everyone doesn't ask that question or anyone doesn't ask that question.
Yeah.
And because again, there's so much encouragement in our world and within our industry to ask that question. So
There's
the
al-
key is, what all you guys have been saying is, the key is to be ready for that, to understand that, and to be able to calmly and with confidence respond to that.
There's also a pocket of people out there that want to pay a premium, right? Because they think they're getting a premium service. There's people out there that want that luxury price tag. They are those luxury brand people, right? So know your audience, right? Because there might be room for you in there too.
Can
Also,
we
I want
take
to
some
just
questions or comments from other people? Maybe I'm sure there's people that have some questions of Mike and Amanda and Nick, or any other.
Joanna, I see your question in the chat. This is going to be available, I believe, Carlos, on our YouTube channel, correct? So that's coming up. Joanna has her hand up also. And then Chris, I do have a question to bring up after that, actually. Joanna, go ahead. I can't hear you, honey. You're on mute. Oh, there you go. Oh, I still can't hear you.
Are you?
Oh, sorry, Joanna, we missed the first half of that. Do you mind starting from the top?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so I was driving, but I really my car should focus. So it's great to know that I can get a recording. Can you hear me? You don't know.
Yeah, sorry, it's hard. It's really echoey.
Something wrong with your microphone, Joanna?
Maybe Joanna, maybe you can put it in the chat.
Yeah, maybe write it in the chat, hon, and then we can address it. Well, while Joanna's doing that, Chris, I wanted to ask you, talking about our position as buyer representatives. So we're going to flip this over from the listing side for a second. You know, there's certain areas in Ontario that some of us may work in. You know, we have 3 different market centers here where the commissions are maybe a little bit, on average, less offered to us as buyer or as co-ops, or they charge less on the sales side than what we do in the Durham region and Toronto, perhaps. So I would like to know, you know, I know, for instance, if I'm taking on a buyer out in Northumberland, chances are I'm going to be offered about a little bit less than what I would be offered normally with a Durham listing. And I'm actually kind of okay with that. But what would you recommend agents taking on these buyers do? Because a lot of people don't want to chase their clients for that small difference in commission.
Okay, so I guess Amanda, it's a fundamental decision that each person has to make. And you're right. I mean, we do a lot of business. Northumberland's a great example. In fact, almost everything there is, and I think it's okay to say this because we're not setting a commission, it's a cooperating brokerage commission. Almost everything there is 2% or less than 2% to cooperating broker. It's become that way. It's just, it's degenerated to that over time. So the vast majority of it is at that. I think each of us has to make a decision of what we charge for our service. I'm not a believer in letting someone else decide what my value is or what my price tag is. Not letting anybody else, in fact, decide what my price tag is for the service that I provide. And so I think it's a question of making the decision. If I'm going to work in these areas, and we're certainly never, let me make a point really clear, which I'm sure everyone here agrees, we're never going to not show someone a property or not bring a property to a buyer, to our client's attention because the cooperating commission is lower. We're never going to do that. We're going to show our buyers everything that fits their criteria, regardless of what the commission is that's being offered to the cooperating brokerage. But I would encourage all of us, frankly, to make a decision, one time. What are you worth? What are you providing? Mike nailed it. Your value proposition. You know, we get paid really well for what we do, I believe, and we provide a very important service. And we need to earn that. We need to earn, you know, every penny of what we are paid. But I believe in each of us deciding what we should get paid, not allowing other people to decide what we get paid. So I think we have many examples in our own brokerage. I see it all the time on our trade record sheets where we have buyers paying the difference between a reduced commission, reduced cooperating broker. I'm trying to be careful to say this and not mention numbers, but the buyer will top up the commission because that's how the agent has presented that's how the agent has presented their value proposition and what they charge for. And mostly that, in most cases, or the bulk of that fee will be paid by the seller in our current reality, but sometimes it will require the buyer to top that up. And so that really is a decision. And I get that a lot of agents struggle with that, but to me, it comes down to making a decision, get organized about how you're going to articulate that decision, believe in your decision, and then do it. But again, it's an individual, personal decision. But I will, as long as I'm doing this, I'm going to encourage people for you to decide what your value is, not let some other agent out in Northumberland or anywhere else, for that matter, decide what your value is as a buyer's agent, as a buyer's rep.
Mike, I'd love for you to take a stab at this if you have any insight. Do you have any insight on this? Working with the buyer, if you're offered less than the co-op, would you ask your buyer to cover the difference?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something you got to discuss with your client as well. And it's, in all honesty, I don't do a lot with buyers. But what I see, what I'm seeing as a listing agent is agents, we get into the negotiation and we're getting close now, they want to drop their commissions, right? And frankly, I just don't allow them to do it because of the mess it creates. And so it's right back to, you may have to sell your value to that listing agent that's offering you 2%. That may be, so it just depends. It comes right down to, you got to believe in yourself. And man, I'll honestly, on my own, I really don't believe in myself. I question myself all the time. I'm actually insecure, if you can believe it, right? So what I do is I'm like constantly in classes like this, I'm taking personal growth classes, right? On like, I think once you believe in yourself, that's your first thing, right? And most of us do not believe in ourselves 100%. We're questioning, like, do we deserve it? We kind of go in there sheepishly, right? So you've got to like really do a sales job on who you are. You got to honestly think, I'm the right person for the job. And then, as I said, I showed you a list earlier. What I'm always trying to do is set myself apart. What's different about me than y'all, right? What's different? So that's where I'm always looking at what separates me from the pack. And that's what I would suggest everybody take a look at.
So everybody give yourself a big hug right now. Tell yourself it's going to be okay. You're the best. You're awesome. And what I do on the way to my listing appointments, or even when I'm writing an offer, I'll crank like a really motivational song and I'll just like dance it out by myself, because nobody needs to see that, but happens, it helps. Nick, do you have any insights on this?
Yeah, I think honestly, at the end of the day, I've learned that saying no is so powerful. Like, meaning like when we're going to, a listing presentation and they want us to, do everything in the moon and stars and discount and all that, I find it so much powerful to say, no, here's my reason why, right? Like, and then I find that when you say no to them, people are like, wait, hold on. Like, you're saying no to me. You're already going something against the grain, right? When I first got into real estate, I got a lot of, people coming back to me and such like that. So I asked like, hey, why did you come back to me? If you don't mind me asking. And they just told me, it's Nick, it's the way you made me feel. And then as soon as that happened, that was just like a aha button that just came off. And, I think the difference with my strategy is I come off like I know them, even though I don't, you know what I mean? And it's just like fact finding, learning more about them before I get right into the business. And I think, so many people just are ready to knock on that door and get their presentation already. Whereas, with me, I'll go there and I'll build relationship for 10 minutes before I even get into anything. You know what I mean? Because first they have to like you before they like anything you're going to start talking about, in my personal opinion, and I don't really get commission problems. Like we do 5% unless it's a one-off, like Amanda says. But I think it comes down to, making sure that you're confident in what you're saying. Like before we go into a listing appointment, I'm at least putting an hour or 2 hours, and it gets easier when you're doing the same area over and over again. But when I come in, they're seeing how much effort I'm putting in, and it's not just like a random number I'm thinking in my head, right? And you know, I feel the same way as Mike sometimes. Like I feel that I'm not confident in my own self, right? But it's just like, you know, you keep doing the things, you keep pushing through, right? And like later on, you're gonna start feeling confident. Like for me, when I first started in real estate, I did the hard stuff that no one wanted to do. I cold called, I door knocked, I did all these things to build character and confidence. And now, 7 years later, you know, it's helped a lot.
Build character, confidence, and practice scripts. That's the biggest part of cold calling. You're practicing your scripts the whole time. And your scripts, like you said, they should be your truth, because people are going to see right through you if it's BS. They're going to know, they're going to see right through it. So your scripts should be your truth, but you should be able to handle all the objections, and you'll get that real quick if you start picking up the phone, cold calling, door knocking as well. Let me tell you.
100%.
Mike, you have something that you want to add?
Yeah, I'm sometimes as good a negotiator I am, and as good as an objection holder I am. I always have a default. What's my default? My default is I'll say, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I really get you know, like getting a discount is really important to you. I'd like to make a deal with you. All right. I'd like you to pay me my full commission. So what we can do is once we get into the negotiation, if you can't see that I've earned every cent of the commission that I've charged, right? We'll negotiate it. We'll negotiate it right there at the table, because I mean, you don't have to sign anything, right? So if you're not seeing the value, we'll go negotiate the commission rate there. So now let's take that one step further. So I've had situations where I'm at the table and they go, remember that commission discount you said you were going to do? And I said, yes, I think that amounts to about $8,000. And they go, that's right. And I go, well, listen, let me do my job. I'm sending this back out the door for an extra 10. I'm going to make us a couple thousand more. And one of two things happen. We either do that, or the seller goes, whoa, I don't know if I want to send that back out the door. I said, well, you've got to let me earn it. So I've done that a number of times where I said, hey, let me do my job here.
This guy lacks confidence.
And that's a really good default if everything else fails. You know what? We'll talk discount right at the table, just between you and me. I'll make sure you're happy, or we're not doing this. We're not selling your house.
For sure. Nick, you actually had a good example yesterday, I think on the call we were on, about being at the table and the seller's expectations were suddenly astronomically different than what they had originally agreed to. And they wanted, you know, but there's 30 offers now, so it should be this much more money than what you had said it would sell for. And that's actually been pretty common from what we heard in the top 20 yesterday. Could you want to enlighten us with that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for bringing it up. So I don't know if a lot of other people are getting this, but I find that with, you know, houses prices going up, a lot of people feel like they're hitting the lottery. You know what I mean? So like, I'll tell them a certain range before we even get started, obviously, and this is the range. But then when offer time comes, it's like, well, I know my number was 1-1, but it's actually 1-1-5 or 1-2. And I go, well, remember, your house has a threshold, right? Like, I will do whatever we need to do, but you have to understand that, like, when we first understood everything, we had our own outline, right? And this is the outline. So I understand that you may have subjective value right now. I will do my best to push it and try to get you over that. But we have to remember the previous conversation that we had, right? And, you know, I want the results just as bad as you do, because we're all on the same team.
And the price that you agreed to take the listing at.
Right.
That's another thing with all the marketing dollars.
And I've told people, like, I've told some of my sellers, like, you know, and like at that point when things like that happen, I'm just the real Nick. So like, I'm still real me, but it's just like, I say, well, you know what? Like, if you told me that, I wouldn't have took your listing, because what you're doing to me is bullshit. And I say these things because, you know what? Like, it's not fair. Yeah. It's not fair.
Yeah.
Right. Like, for me to tell you, hey, your car's worth $30,000, and then you have a buyer come out and they're like, I want 40. Like, no, you're not serious then. And then why am I wasting my money and my time with other people that want to use me?
Sorry, Mike's a little agape right now. Mike, did you want to jump? He's like,
But, you know, I think it's easy for us to explain what we do and how we do it, and people get it. But I have a hunch there's a lot of agents going, but Mike, you know, yeah, but, you know, like, I don't know, Chris, are you around the Mike Ferry days? But you go, but Mike, So I just wonder if anybody, like, they've heard all these great ideas, but they're either still not buying it, or they have an objection, or that they really like to bring out. Because the thing is, we know our stuff, we can do it, but what we want to do is we want to make a contribution to everybody here, right? So this is your opportunity to, like, you got to first of all accept that we don't know, we forget, we're not sure how to do it, right? So I'm just curious to see if there's anybody in the audience here today that is maybe not buying into what we're saying, which is fine.
Yeah,
right?
call us on our stuff. Call us on our
Yeah.
BS.
Yeah, and you know, because I could remember going to many conferences and I wasn't buying in to what the speaker was saying.
Yeah.
And by me putting my hand up and challenging the speaker is what made the biggest difference for me, because John Ferber had dragged me to a Mike Ferry conference, I'm going to say 30 years ago, and I was a buyer agent. And he was telling me, like, you know, you're never going to be super successful in this business being a buyer agent. And I was selling 45 buyers a year. And I put my home, I said, but Mike, I'm 45 buyers. Like, that's, he goes, oh, that's pretty good money. And he says, so what's your goal for next year? And I went, 50 buyers? What about the year after that? 55, you know, like, I really got the point that he's trying to contribute to me, but I'm being real judgmental back here, not buying into it. So that's where the juice really lies, is by the questions you have, things that you may not be buying into, or really curious about what's going to work for you.
Yeah, who here has some questions or something they're facing that they want us to maybe brainstorm around, or a challenge they keep coming up against? Like, I know right now, guys, I'm waiting for some hands to go up while I ramble on. So keep putting your hands up while we're talking, or write something in the chat. But I know, trust me, how hard it is to get listings right now. I know it's challenging, especially before Christmas, but even just in the market we're in. But like we said, 360 homes sold last month in Oshawa, right? Nick, something like that. So like,
Yeah.
things are still selling, but it is a challenge. I'm not going to negate that. I get that. So if
Amanda,
you guys have-
I'm not seeing any hands here, but I'd like to back up for a second, just back to the question you asked me. I'd just like to make one more comment. And this is about the co-op commission thing, and about whether or not we simply accept the co-op commission. And what I'd say to everyone is, certainly in our market area, and I got to believe it's going to be the same everywhere, is that this co-op commission problem is going to get worse before it gets better. Until our market conditions change and get back to some kind of balance in our market, this challenge is going to continue to increase. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't really see much changing our market conditions for quite some time, because we have an acute inventory shortage all across Southern Ontario. So I think these market conditions are likely to stay this way. So this is going to become more of a problem, not less of a problem, in terms of the co-op broker commission. And so what I'd ask each person to ask themselves, if you're working with a buyer and you're showing, I don't know, you're showing the buyer 10 homes or 15 homes or 5 or 20, whatever number of homes you end up showing, why is it that if they select one to purchase and are successful, why is, and it's a reduced co-op broker commission, why should you accept a lesser commission simply because that agent didn't have their stuff together in terms of being able to have the confidence that Mike and Nick and Amanda are talking about here, and many others of you on this call also have that confidence? Why does it make any sense for you to let that someone else dictate, when if your buyer had chosen another property, it would have been 2.5%? That's the question I want to ask. I want you to ask yourselves.
I would almost challenge in some ways. For me, like I said, I know that if I take on a buyer that's looking in a particular area, that I'm likely to receive less than I would normally receive in Durham. And I still take on that buyer because what I'm after is the repeat and referral business that I get from that. I'm after keeping that buyer long-term. 85% of my business was repeat and referral last year. One of my buyers brought me 6 deals alone just from one client. So for me, I feel like for that small percentage difference, am I keeping them happy? It's hard enough for first-time home buyers, which are going extinct, by the way, to even get into the market right now. Am I going to go into their pockets a little deeper over a small amount of money? How much do I need that couple $1,000, as opposed to I need them happy and referring me and using me over and over and over again? And that's one way that I personally can look at it, Chris, and I don't think everyone will agree with that. And I certainly don't cut my commission on a standard basis as a listing agent at all, nor do I ever cut it as an offer on a purchase. But I know that when I'm showing and I take on a buyer and I agree to take them on as client in certain areas, that's likely what it's going to happen. And personally, I'm okay with it. That's just me. And I don't feel like that. I don't know my value. I don't feel like I'm a lesser agent. I personally I made a business decision in that moment for my business.
So Amanda, I wouldn't judge that and I wouldn't critique that or criticize that. I would simply say to you that with that approach, unfortunately, I predict, and I hope I'm wrong, but I predict that you're going to be making that compromise much more often as we go along. Unless you decide, and maybe you never will, and that's fine too, but so I just ask each person to really think this through and determine whether or not you're okay with that, with someone else determining your income or if you're okay with that. If you are, then you are. It's not for me to judge that.
Yeah,
I do believe it.
Yeah, when we're not in this crazy aggressive market, listen, less has been offered and I've negotiated more, but in order to negotiate more with the listing agent for the seller to pay it, you have to negotiate that before you even show the listing off MLS. Because if it's on MLS and it's listed at that commission offering price, you're actually obliged to take that on the confirmation of co-op unless you negotiate that in writing before showing the property. You've already agreed to it.
Yeah, you're right. You wouldn't negotiate with the listing agent after the fact. You would negotiate with the listing agent, but if the listing agent says, no, buzz off, no, I'm not going to do that, then your option is either to accept it or to have that conversation with your buyer. But I'm not critiquing, I'm not judging, I'm simply saying it's going to happen more and more and more. Mike?
I'm really curious about this conversation because we don't have it in our area, right? We all the full service brokerages in here offer 2.5% as a full service,
or more.
Yeah.
We're not talking about exact percentages today, gentlemen.
Yeah. So so if you were to look on the MLS, you'll see that most companies are offering 2.5%. All right. So the question I have is, it sounds like in some areas it's 2%. That's per se, right? So are there any agents here that are going in as a buyer agent and negotiating higher commissions?
Or I'd be curious to also hear, I would love to hear from a buyer's agent who is negotiating with their client to pay that difference and having that conversation before they even go out and how they're handling that. I'd love to hear is there anybody on here that is consistently working with a buyer that is pre-negotiating that they will pay the difference in any commission?
Well, not even consistently. I wouldn't even mind the odd story where they got more. Is there anybody here that are successfully negotiating higher commissions as a buyer agent?
I did it once.
Oh, Nick. Okay, Nick.
But sorry, I've been talking, so give someone else a chance.
Maysoon just said I did. Did you want to elaborate on that? And the buyers didn't object at all.
Hi, guys. This is a great session. Sorry for joining very late.
We're happy to have you. That's what this is all about.
Thank you. Well, I had this experience. I bought for someone in Niagara area, and I had to go with the buyer so far. So I had 2 clients this year. One that I really asked them for the difference, and it was very, very normal for them, even before we did the showing. And they did the difference. I put it on the cooperation agreement, and we got the difference. The second buyer, I chose not to negotiate because I just don't want to deal with them in the future. That was like the last deal I want to do with them. So it's like, okay, let's buy. I don't want to mention it, but I let them know that I compromised 0.50% and it's fine. Just get it done. So those 2 examples, like you choose, right? And another one, I made sure that they know, and it's a gift from me, 0.25%. So I think everything changed depends on what type of buyers you're dealing with. And if you want to keep them for a long term, you want referrals from them, exactly as Amanda mentioned. But I just wanted to make sure to mention that one client was a very difficult client, and they didn't object to pay the difference. I just mentioned this property in Burlington, they're offering 2%, and I'm expecting full commission as per our buyer representation agreement. and they had no problem.
Good.
I was so worried to mention it at the beginning. So
Were they first-time home buyers? I'm just
they were
curious.
first-time home buyers during COVID.
Okay.
Very difficult clients. They were referred to me, and I didn't want to give up on them because they're referred by a good client. And I couldn't believe myself that they said yes. It's like, huh, really? So it's not hard.
Good for you.
Why
You
was I
asked.
worried? So just try. It's like the maximum you can get is a no.
Yes, Chris.
To respond, Mike, I've gone through the list of who's on the call, and I'm not seeing the names of the people that I know from KWE that are successfully doing that. And I'm sure I could arrange, if we have another one of these calls, which I hope we do, another one of these panels, which I hope we do early in the new year, I know I can arrange for one of those people to be on the call. But essentially, Mike, the answer is they have the conversation, they set up their conversation with the buyer exactly the way that you do with the seller. They create a value proposition. They have all these conversations up front, and they don't leave it until they're in that situation, obviously, where they're showing a listing that has a reduced co-op commission. They have the conversation with the buyer exactly the way that you have the conversation with the seller up front about your value and how your value is going to end up benefiting, how that buyer working with you and your value proposition is going to end up benefiting them in the same way that you had that conversation with your
So
seller.
all in all,
That's
Chris,
how they do it.
so it's your decision as an agent. You want to ask for the difference. You don't want. There's no harm into trying. I have another question since I'm on talking here. My other challenge is, I'm not sure if Mike, we're going to do anything like this at the office. The value proposition that we always talk about, and I've been in this business for 15 years, and my value proposition keeps changing, depends on who am I talking to. Is this something normal?
Yeah, completely. My value proposition changes every year, every 2 years. And you know why it changes? Because it stops working, stops becoming effective, right?
Thank you. Because I keep rewriting, and I think,
yeah,
what's going on?
I mean, I've been in 35 years of the business. Everybody tells me, Mike, I can't believe, you've been around so long and you're at every training class, you're at everything. I wrote down, I forget who said it, might have been you, Amanda. Do you have anything I haven't discussed that would stop you from listing your home with me? I thought, I've heard that before, but I haven't used it lately, right? What a great close, right? Type of thing. Because you're fishing out objections, right, Amanda? Right?
Absolutely. And
because as Canadians, we're going to polite people to death, right? We're going to smile, we're going to say sure, and you'll never see us again. Is that correct, right? Because
could be.
So but I want to acknowledge Miss Soon is what I heard is she just asked.
Yeah.
What I'm getting is nobody is asking. Yeah. We're just laying over like sheep. It's like Chris, and what we've learned here, Amanda, is we might have had a couple of agents here successfully negotiating commissions on the buy side.
Yep. Right? Harry Brown just commented that he negotiated an extra 0.25% with no objections.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like a lot of us haven't even thought about asking for more.
But that was with the listing agent. Perry, do you have a little story on that you can share?
Yeah, absolutely. It was listed for, they were offering 2.25%. I had a client that was interested. So I called the agent. I go, listen, I typically work for 2.5%. I don't want my buyer to pay that. Would your clients pay the extra 0.25%? And she said, I don't see a problem with that.
In this market, that's crazy because it's hard for buyer agents to do that with the, it being as competitive as it is. So that's great, Harry. I'm glad to hear it. We just lost Chris. He has a medical appointment, but I want to thank him when this plays back for all of his contributions. He was really the driving force in bringing this call together today. So thank you, Chris. Does anybody have anything else they want to add in? We are at our time here, but I just want to make sure we've really brought value to you today. Is there any other comments or questions that we can answer?
Here's your chance.
Yes. I was in one situation one time and where I was showing some properties to somebody, and then I had pointed out on the listing to the client, I said, these folks here are paying 2%. And I said, what that is telling us is that's sending us a message saying that they're going to be really stubborn and very difficult to negotiate with when comes time to to negotiate for the price of their home. So I said, we can go and see this property if you like, but that's what we can expect when we actually get down to putting in an offer. And then they just, okay, let's go to the next one. And then we went to that, and that's the only time I've ever had any situation where we were below the 2.5 threshold. Again, I'm in the same market as Mike. That's so rare. We don't see that too often, but that's the only time I ever handled that, and that's how I handled it.
Yeah. Thank you, Ed. Anybody else with any burning questions? It's your opportunity.
I do. Can I do another question?
Of course, Maysoon, of course.
So I just want an opinion of, I know all the expertise here. I have a long-term previous buyer and seller I know him for a little more than 8 years, bought with me 2-3 properties. And suddenly he calls me and he said, don't be surprised, I put my property on the market and I went with purple brick. And I didn't negotiate or spoke to you, or I know you would have given me a good deal, but I want to try with these people. They're telling me they can sell the house for 1.9. I know it's not going to sell for 1.9, but don't be upset. So he keeps talking to me every day, telling me what's going on for the last 2 weeks, saying he's going to buy with me, but he's just trying to save. So what would you do if, like, I feel him like he's not in touch talking to these purple brick agents because they don't really have any service.
Did they sign a contract though for MLS? Because if he signed
They are on MLS, and I find myself, he keeps asking me questions, and I don't want to ruin the relationship because I know he's not going to buy with anyone else. And I'm like, I feel like I don't want to give him an advice. I keep telling him, go back to them. What would you do?
Can I take this for a second? Well, unfortunately, I don't know the buyer's name. Unfortunately, Mr. Smith, I love working with you, and I'm so glad that we have an opportunity to work together on your purchase. And I know that, once your home sells and we know exactly how much money you have in the bank, we're going to be successful in securing you, your forever home. Unfortunately, though, because you have signed a contract for your listing, I am legally not allowed to discuss the details of your listing with you. And it would be a breach of my code of ethics. And at the end of the day, what do I have other than my ethics, my integrity, and my honesty? And that's why I believe you chose me to work with you as a buyer agent, Mr. Smith. So unfortunately, I won't be able to answer those questions. When does your contract expire? At the end of that expiry, if you're not happy with the service that's been provided you by Purple Bricks, I would be happy to discuss your listing with you and ensure that you're successful on both sides of your transaction. But we'll have to wait for that date before we can get into any details. And again, I really apologize, but my hands are tied here, unfortunately.
Yeah, I do understand your situation. I'm just asking you what's your opinion? If I got 4 showings and I got no offers and I got 1.7, what do you think I should do?
Unfortunately, as I've just said, I can't answer that.
I'm repeating myself. I keep repeating myself because that's exactly how would I answer.
You'll have to contact your advisor at Purple Bricks to answer that.
I started telling him, like, just get a cancellation if you're not happy. I can't really keep talking about
this. You
can't
say that either.
That's fine. Get a cancellation. I'm just going to say it against anything, but I can't keep talking to you when you're still on a contract.
So Maysoon, so Amanda said the exact right thing that you should say.
Yeah.
And I would add, well, I'm really surprised. We the market was up 22% November. Geez, that's really surprising. But you know what? Let me know. Like whenever as soon as I hope you sell your home. But if not, I'm always here. So I always just throw a little something. Gee, I'm really surprised.
Just that naive little, right, Mike Clarke? Just
I like a little.
Yeah.
I mean, let's think about it.
This is why you should
can't sell a house in this market. You're a lunatic.
This is why you should have chosen me instead of choosing that company. Sorry, I said Purple Brick, but it's already Purple Brick.
Yeah. So. Any final questions here?
No, I'm just gonna make him do the cancellation. It's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, guys. Thank you so much for your comments, your feedback, your attendance, your engagement. It's always such a pleasure putting this on with all 3 of the market centers. Mike and Nick, you guys are rock stars, and I'm really grateful to be in business with both of you and glad to have collaborated with you both on this. So thank you for bringing so much value to our crews here. I wish you all the best, and I hope you all have wonderful holidays. If we don't see each other before then, this is our last wealth building session of 2021. So what a way to to end it off. But I hope we'll do another one again soon in 2022 and look forward to seeing all of your beautiful faces in the new year. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Amanda. Thanks, Nick.
you.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. And for more KW sessions, please visit our website, our YouTube channel at Keller Williams Insider. You'll also find all the recordings there of all sessions that are being created by this absolutely wonderful group. Thank you again, and you have a nice day.
Thanks, Carlos.
Thank you.